au long de ce panneau, vous verrez et entendrez des gens qui, malgré leurs limitations, participent activement dans leur société. Ils sont impliqués dans différentes organisations et projets qui viennent en aide aux personnes qui ont des maladies auto-immunes neuromusculaires. Je rappelle à chaque participant que vous avez 10 minutes chaque maximum. Donc, I just want to send a brief reminder to all participants that you have 10 minutes maximum, and I'm the keeper of the time, and I'm strict and mean. Donc, je vous présente premièrement la Fondation GBS-CIDP, donc PDC en français. La Fondation canadienne du SGB-PDC est un des organismes de charité qui est composé de bénévoles dévoués et formés vivant avec le SGB ou le PDC qui soutiennent les patients dans leur communauté en espérant qu'aucun d'entre eux traverse des moments difficiles seuls. Les bénévoles présents sont heureux d'être ici pour rencontrer les patients et leurs aidants. Donc, sur ce,
you can't see. I'm going to use the same joke as I did at BC, which is a very height challenge. So I'm going to stand out here and look back. It's the easiest thing to do. And if you don't mind, Pascal, I'll get you here. Thank you very much. Before I go down for services, I just want to speak very quickly and say thank you to Pascal Rousseau and Muscular Dystrophy Quebec for inviting the GBS-CIDP Foundation to be to be here at this educational day, and it's been a wonderful experience meeting new patients in the community. Thank you. I just want to introduce us for the GBS-CIDP Foundation of Canada. We are a group of, thank you, we are patients, a group of patients that are supporting patients. All in the area of CIDP, GBS, and variants. And our main goal is that no patient that is diagnosed with one of the disorders under our umbrella faces it alone. Every single member that's here is a patient with one of the disorders, has experienced the fears that come with that diagnosis, and want to be here, and they're dedicated to the patient community and letting them know that we're here for the support that we can give patients. We're also a registered charity, I'll go back a little, as well as we have a mission, and that is of support, education, and research. I'll just go on to a few services. I'm not going to talk very long because I want you to meet the volunteer liaisons in the area of Quebec that are here to support patients locally, but I'll go through a few of the services. Our volunteers are trained volunteers. They will do hospital visitation for patients that are in hospital and been diagnosed with one of the disorders. Within that visitation, they will typically be able to answer any questions that come along with those fears. A lot of the time, a diagnosis will come along and a patient and family are not aware. They've never even heard of Guillain-Barré syndrome. They've never heard of chronic inflammatory myelitis polyneuropathy or multifocal motor neuropathy or other variants. So we bring in that information, and or if we do not have a liaison locally, a lot of patients are finding us through the internet now. They can contact us. We do have a website, and I'll show you that at the end. And through that contact, we can do telephone support as well if we don't have a liaison that's in your community. Our liaisons are dedicated to bringing support group meetings to communities. If the community wants that support group meeting, they will go forward and try to set that up with patients. We also have educational material. We do have material out in the lobby. It is a large library of literature that has been validated by medical professionals. Part of that information is provided by the Foundation International by as I said, doctors that have validated that sit on your medical advisory board, as well as our own information that we've brought along. There's 2 trifolds out there that if you want to get more information on how to contact us or who we are above and beyond this 10 minutes, which I'm trying to keep to, is there's trifolds of how you can get in contact with someone at the foundation. We also have educational presentations. We do have doctors on a medical advisory board, as well as other contacts with neuromuscular neurologists that could be within your province, within your urban centers, that we can give you those names if you're looking to find someone new, if you're moving, or if you're new to the disorder and you want a second opinion, those types of areas. We do educational presentations. We have a biannual newsletter called News and Views. We have a copy outside, and that keeps our patients up to date. National conference. We're pleased to announce that our national conference is confirmed for May 2nd next year in Mississauga, and we will be posting the details of the agenda shortly, as well as how to register for that event. We do regional conferences as well. We haven't pegged down next year, so I can't give that information. But once again, the website continually keeps getting updated and letting you know what events are going on. We do research funding. The foundation, a more recent research funding that was given out was for IGOS, which is surrounding the Guillain-Barré syndrome and research in that area. Patient advocacy, and we do awareness events. And I'm going to keep this short. We do have contact information. This is what is found on the back of the trifold for the foundation, the GBS-CIDP Foundation in Canada. Please, we're here to support you in any way we can. And if there are questions and areas of how we can support you in any way, please contact us and we'll see what we can do for you. In the meantime, I wanted to quickly introduce 2 of our liaisons, and I'm going to give the microphone to Beryl. And it's important, they want to let local patients here know that there is someone here to support you through the GBS-CIDP Foundation. And this is Beryl Bergeville, and she is one of our great liaisons, very dedicated to our patients, and you can do whatever you would like, whatever you're comfortable with. Sure. Okay. Oh, sorry, you have that.
Mon nom, c'est Beryl Bergeron. J'ai eu le Guillain-Barré en 2004. Ça fait à peu près 7 ans que je suis liaison avec Susan, Dana. Ça me fait plaisir d'aider le monde que je peux. Merci.
And Peter. This is Peter Levitt.
Thank you. 3 years ago, I didn't know what GBS or CIDP were. I was busily pursuing my career, had a high-stress job, and was, trying to work my way up the echelon and all of that kind of stuff that really focuses on the exterior, not the interior. And then I started to have some problems with my peripheral nerves. My feet didn't quite work the way they were supposed to. I went in to see my doctor, and he couldn't quite get his attention. Went back again. The 3rd time I went, I had to use a cane. And then I got his attention, and he referred me to get specialized analysis. And it turned out I have CIDP. So when I was really afflicted with it, they decided they were going to put me on aggressive treatment of both IVIG and prednisone together. He said, we're going to blast this. And that regime really worked well for me. But perhaps what was as important or even more important was rethinking everything. When you come down with a very serious illness like this, I found that I had to really stop focusing on my career and all of those other things, and I had to rethink my life. And so it was an opportunity to take a break from work. In fact, I was close enough to retire that I ultimately did. I decided that I should see friends and family that I hadn't seen for quite some time, because that was really important, and I didn't know if this was going to continue to progress or not, but I felt like I really needed to get in touch with my inner self. Thank you for your presentation. It really describes a lot of what I went through. And the worst nightmare was not being diagnosed, not knowing what it was, that terrorizing time when it could be any number of really bad things, and you don't know the name of your enemy. After I was diagnosed, I still had a lot of physical problems, and I just started treatment. And part of that rethinking was, what do I want to do or continue to do that's good for me, that I really enjoy? And I like to fish. I fish for muskellunge, big fish, catch and release, and all of that kind of thing. It's very physically active. And one night, with a good friend and his wife, who's a physiotherapist, we came up with this notion of fishiotherapy. And what that meant was, this is something that's good for me because I enjoy it. I want to continue to do it to the limit of, within bounds of what I can do. But also, it's physical exercise. It's casting, it's getting in and out of the boat. It was an activity that I enjoyed. It was exercise, but sort of disguised. And that was really good for me. So by the end of this summer, I'd been out in a boat quite a bit, and I'd been fishing quite a bit, and was feeling really good, and physically started to feel much better. And it was at that point that I faced the decision, do I want to go back to work? Or do I want to, populate my life with some new stuff that is post-work? So doing volunteer work, being involved in a national fishing organization, spending more time with people, those became things that were more important. So the disease comes and goes, but your attitude towards the disease is a really, really important thing. You're always on your guard, but don't stop doing what you love, because that's really important. So that's my experience.
So thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. J'ai pas eu, c'est bien. So right now, je vais vous présenter Tracy Williams et le... Oups, je m'excuse.
Je suis là pour montrer
En deuxième, je vous présente Iris Vaitine. Iris est la présidente de la Coalition canadienne de la myasthénie grave. Iris, 10 minutes.
Okay. So, we have the Myasthenia Gravis Coalition of Canada, a very long name for a very small organization with what I think is a very vital mission. So I'd like to put a human face to an organization and share with you a little bit about myself.
Did you prepare that?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's feedback. Okay. So I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis when I was 20 years old in 1972. That's about 42 years ago. And I have been a patient of the Montreal Neurological Hospital all these years. And I want to share with you that I have had incredibly wonderful, capable care here at this hospital. And I'd like to emphasize the word care. A very caring team of doctors and nurses who have always been there for me, as with myasthenia and these other diseases. It has its ups and its downs, and the years of challenging the ins and outs of myasthenia and its symptoms. Now, as a young person, I was unsure what to do with this kind of diagnosis. So for many, many years, I never shared with people that I had myasthenia gravis. I almost, I think what I would say, I was like a closeted myasthenic, we'd say, where people never knew, and it was harder on me because I didn't always have the same strength as everyone, but I just didn't know how to share it. And then when I turned 50 and realized I'm going to make it all the way, it became important for me to meet other people with myasthenia. I had actually never met anyone with the disease. I did it all on my own. I never reached out to the organizations. And in doing so, I came to meet wonderful people across Canada who were supporting their local communities for myasthenia gravis. But what we didn't have was a Canadian umbrella in the sense. Of course, muscular dystrophy certainly represents over 100 muscle diseases. But for myasthenia gravis, there are major organizations in British Columbia, in Manitoba, in Ontario, and various support groups in areas in Saskatchewan, Ottawa, and in Eastern Canada. But nobody knew about each other. So having met these wonderful people, I proposed that we create the Myasthenia Gravis Coalition of Canada to really network between ourselves, and most importantly, I'll tell you, I feel like a dispatcher. Here's how it works. Someone will email and ask for support, and I'll ask them where they're from, and then refer them to the closest support group in their area. Of course, for general information on the disease, we can certainly provide that anywhere in Canada, but one of the things that myasthenia gravis, perhaps as other diseases, is that it's often difficult to get a correct diagnosis, or a diagnosis at all, because the symptoms fluctuate, because they resemble other conditions, and because it's still a fairly rare disease. People have been known to live with symptoms anywhere from 2 to 5 years before they're able to get a diagnosis. And as the gentleman said earlier, there's nothing more troublesome than knowing something's wrong and not knowing how to help yourself with a diagnosis. So one of the things that we did last year, and I want to share this with you because it came through a personal experience. A gentleman from Calgary emailed and simply said, "What's new in MG research?" And I had no idea where he was coming from. So I asked him to share a little bit more about himself, and as it turned out, he was experiencing very, very extreme double vision. And those were his only symptoms, and he was being treated by an ophthalmologist, but not for myasthenia gravis, for another reason. And he'd been like that for 2 years. And what happened one day as he was preparing for a surgery that had nothing to do with myasthenia gravis, his eyelid started to droop, and he thought, being in middle age, perhaps he's having a stroke. So he rushed himself to emergency, and that's where he received the correct diagnosis. So this is not an uncommon story. This has happened, I've heard this again and again, where people end up in emergency, people thinking they're having a stroke, but in fact, someone there recognizes the symptoms and they get the correct diagnosis. Now for me, with a great good fortune is this, guess what this gentleman does for his work? Apparently in Alberta, within the whole healthcare system, in every waiting room for patients going for any medical treatment, they have these plasma screens showing these videos, educational videos on various conditions and health concerns. And his job is to promote these videos that are made by his boss. So here's a man who works in the medical field creating videos for education. What could have been a better combination than the two of us coming together? And with the support of our pharmaceutical company, we got a grant, and together we prepared a video really to educate we love to educate all the medical community, but in fact, we want to help educate the everyday person, so when they know what the symptoms are of myasthenia, they themselves, should they know someone who has those symptoms or they themselves have it, be able to go to their doctor and ask to be tested for myasthenia. So we put together a video, a 3-minute video, and I want to encourage anyone, if you ever have that opportunity, to share it with others, to help people have a better understanding of this disease and enable people to get a diagnosis sooner than later, especially since it's a treatable disease and no one should have to suffer more than they need to. I'd like to, if we have, we're out of time? Okay.
No.
We're out of time? Okay, can you show our website?
Let's say I'm there.
Okay, so because of my speaking in English, I would like to present, we do make every effort, whatever we prepare here in Canada, we like to do it bilingually. We really, really want to make sure that our French community has equal access to all this education. So here we are on the French page of the Myasthenia Gravis, la Coalition Canadienne de la Myasthenie Grave. And here you'll find on our front page is a video, and for anyone who's wondering what the link is, when you link into it, it will show you the video link, anyone can play it anywhere. So let's go. You just have to click right on it. Ah, here we go.
Souffrez-vous de dédoublement de vision, parfois accompagné de l'affaissement d'une ou des deux paupières? L'avez-vous d'abord remarqué en fin de journée ou lorsque vous êtes fatigué? Il peut s'agir de signes précurseurs de la myasthénie grave. La myasthénie grave est une maladie neuromusculaire auto-immune caractérisée par un affaiblissement musculaire et une grande fatigue. Dans la plupart des cas, les premiers symptômes perceptibles sont une faiblesse des muscles oculaires, causant un dédoublement de la vision ainsi que la chute des paupières. La myasthénie grave peut toucher presque n'importe quel groupe de muscles volontaires du corps. Cette faiblesse tend à augmenter avec l'activité continue et à diminuer après des périodes de repos et peut varier d'un jour ou d'une semaine à l'autre. Son apparition peut être soudaine, mais les premiers symptômes sont souvent subtils et variables et ne sont habituellement pas reconnus immédiatement comme ceux de la myasthénie grave. Les symptômes varient selon le type et la sévérité et peuvent inclure affaissement d'une ou des deux paupières, dédoublement de la vue, difficulté à parler comme un discours nasal ou une voix rauque, difficulté à mâcher et à avaler pouvant causer des risques d'étouffement ou de la toux, faiblesse au niveau du visage comme une difficulté à sourire, à fermer les yeux ou la mâchoire, faiblesse au niveau des épaules et du cou, surtout lorsque la tête est droite, faiblesse au niveau des bras, des mains ou des doigts, causant ainsi des difficultés à lever les bras au-dessus de la tête, à se brosser les cheveux ou les dents, faiblesse au niveau des jambes, comme de la difficulté à se lever d'une chaise ou à grimper les escaliers, difficulté à respirer, particulièrement lorsque la personne est en position couchée. Ces symptômes peuvent être plus perceptibles ou augmentés après une infection ou la prise de certains médicaments.
So the disease can range from very mild double vision or seeing two objects, maybe one, or mild droopiness of the eye, to severe swallowing, breathing, or limb muscle weakness. The disease can be diagnosed by a simple blood test in about 60 to 80% of cases.
Si vous ou quelqu'un de votre entourage souffrez d'un ou plusieurs de ces symptômes, demandez à votre médecin de s'informer sur la myasthénie grave. La bonne nouvelle est qu'une fois évalué et diagnostiqué, des traitements efficaces sont disponibles pour contrôler cette maladie chronique.
The prognosis of the condition is very good. If treated appropriately, most patients live a normal life. They go back to their work full time. The key is early diagnosis and prompt treatment.
Pour plus d'informations, veuillez visiter le site web suivant ou chercher Myasthénie grave Canada sur le moteur de recherche Google.
Thank you. So now that video in English and in French is being shown all across Alberta. So we're really fortunate that way. I just wanted to end by saying that the motto we chose for our organization is in English, strengthening our connections. In French, renforçons nos connexions. A little bit of play on the word, of course, because of he talked about the connection at the neuromuscular junction. We want to strengthen those connections, but we also across Canada really, being a small community, want to really connect with each other with myasthenia, and I just want to encourage anyone who knows someone with the disease or looking for a diagnosis, please contact us, and we'll be sure to point you in the right direction for your needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Iris. Maintenant, je vous présente Tracy William et le docteur Deborah Radcliffe Branch de l'atelier. Tracy William est formatrice pour l'atelier, un programme d'autogestion de maladies chroniques du Centre hospitalier de l'Université McGill. Tracy est née avec la Charcot-Marie-Tooth de type 1, la forme de dystrophie musculaire la plus répandue, touchant une personne sur 2500. Durant l'enfance, elle a passé 4 ans dans un fauteuil roulant et 10 ans avec des béquilles. À l'époque, il n'y avait pas de programme d'autogestion et par instinct, elle est devenue sa propre autogestionnaire. Elle est maintenant professeure et maître formateur dans le programme L'Atelier, ainsi que professeur certifié de yoga pour les aînés et les personnes à mobilité réduite. Pour ce qui est du Dr. Ratcliffe Branch, m'excuse, I'm sorry about mispronouncing your name. Dr. Ratcliffe Branch a effectué un stage postdoctoral à l'Université de Montréal dans les domaines de la communication médecin-patient et la santé des vivants plus âgés. Elle a rejoint l'Institut et l'Hôpital neurologique de Montréal en juillet 2007 en tant que professeure adjointe à la faculté de médecine et a ensuite été nommée directrice de l'atelier, un programme d'autogestion des maladies chroniques, le modèle Stanford, du CUSUM. Le Dr. Ratcliffe Branch, je vais tellement déformer le nom plusieurs fois, dirige ce programme unique pour les patients atteints de maladies chroniques en anglais et en français sur les 5 sites hospitaliers du CUSUM. Elle supervise toutes les activités du programme, notamment l'adhésion au protocole et l'évaluation des programmes de Stanford, en plus de l'analyse statistique des résultats pour les patients. Elle a dirigé le développement de ce programme dans plusieurs régions du Québec et à l'étranger. Donc, présente. Merci. Merci à vous.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure that this goes forward. Okay. Thank you to the Muscular Dystrophy Association for inviting us to present. I have 10 minutes, and I'm going to take my 10 minutes. I will speak for 5, and Tracy Williams, who's a master trainer for the program, who also has muscular dystrophy, will speak for the other 5. So if I could get a warning sort of midway, I'd appreciate it. So our medical system currently is still very much focused around acute illness, even though chronic conditions are really what's seen every day in hospitals. And I won't go through this slide too much, other than to highlight that someone with chronic conditions, such as someone with muscular dystrophy, the role of the professional used to be just to select and give you a prescription, fill your medication. If you had a broken arm, put a cast on your arm. Whereas now they have to teach you and they have to partner with you. This is going to be a long-term partnership, and both sides of that interview need to acknowledge that we are going to be partners for a long time. So the role of the patient used to be, with acute disease, just to follow instructions. If your doctor said to do this, you did it. Whereas now with chronic conditions, again, we really need to partner with our health professionals because you're the ones that are responsible for the daily management of your illness. So I won't go through this again, we have such little time, but what I'd like to say is that traditional patient education, what you are getting from your health professionals, is different from self-management education. So the My Toolbox program teaches you how to engage in self-management, and it's problem-based. And those problems are defined by you, not your physician, not your wife, not your, your cousin. It's really about you. It's a problem-solving based program. The education really provides problem-solving skills. And what we hope to do is for you to acquire greater confidence in your capacity to make changes in your life. So what's the goal? The goal really is this increased self-efficacy to improve clinical outcomes. So self-management is defined as what we need to do to live well with one or more chronic conditions. And these tasks include having the confidence to deal with medical management, role management, and emotional management of the chronic health condition. So we're diagnosed with a condition, and we often have a list of things that we need to change. We have medications, we have lots and lots of things. This is just an example. We need to recognize and act on symptoms, make effective use of medication and treatments, give up smoking, get exercise, use stress reduction techniques. That's an overwhelming amount of changes for one person to make. So our program helps you achieve your goals step by step. It's how do you get started with this? A lot of people facing these new tasks would just feel overwhelmed and not really want to do any of them. This is just to highlight how much time you are managing your illness. For the most of your life, you are managing it on your own. So it's vital that you learn the skills, how to do that, to make yourself happy and how to have the best health outcomes. So self-management's important because you have new responsibilities placed on you, as do your families. And traditional patient education doesn't meet all of your needs. People manage chronic disease mostly by themselves, and our behavior is important, it's complex, and people need meaningful participation. So what do people learn in self-management programs? They learn information from the program, so in our case, there's a book that people follow, and they learn information from other participants. But the practical skills are the really important ones, sort of getting started. How do I get started on doing whatever it is you'd like to do? Problem-solving skills, communication skills is an important one because you're communicating with your healthcare team, with your family, with your employer, and sometimes we get stuck in communication ruts. So our program will help you to learn how to communicate so you get what you need from your relationships and from your healthcare team. We teach people how to evaluate treatment options, how to work with healthcare professionals, and how to deal with frustration, anger, and fear. And also some cognitive techniques, such as reframing, some self-talk, relaxation techniques. I'm going to have to speed through this. This is an example of a class in progress. So our program is called My Toolbox, or l'atelier autogestion de soins in French. It's given by volunteer peer leaders who have a chronic condition themselves. And this is crucial because it makes it much more authentic. It's not a healthcare professional telling you what to do. It's someone that's walked a mile in your shoes. It's a 6-week workshop, 2.5 hours a week. You receive a book that goes with it, and it's at no cost to participants. I think I'm going to skip this overview. This is the book. This is a picture of a class in progress. As you can see, different ages, different ethnicities, different illnesses. And this is really important. This is a research-based program, so we measure, we evaluate patients the first class and then 6 months later, and these are the improvements, statistically significant improvements we see. So patients cope better with symptoms. They spend more time doing aerobic exercise. They better communicate with their physicians. Their ability to manage their disease and its symptoms improved. Their health status improves. Depression reduces, physical abilities increase, as does energy. Fatigue, health distress, pain severity reduces. Illness intrusive in everyday life reduces. And there are less overnight hospitalizations and ER visits. So we are on our 7-year mark. We've done this for a long time. We offer about 25 classes a year in French and English in different sites across Montreal. The MUHC sponsors the program. We've had over 1,800 people now go through the program. We have 25 certified leaders and master trainers, and you're going to speak to one of them in a moment. We have many community partnerships. And this is our team in 2009, in 2010, and 2011. So we have quite a varied leader team. If anyone is interested in becoming a leader, we encourage you to contact us. We suggest you take the course first and then become a leader, but it's the most rewarding experience for the right person. And now I'll introduce you to Tracy Williams, who has been with us since the beginning, and she is a master trainer in our program. Thank you, Tracy.
Hi, my name is Tracy, as you just heard. I won't go into too much about my situation because that was in the introduction, but I was born in 1967, and there was obviously something wrong, so I couldn't do things the other kids couldn't do, and I was constantly falling over my feet. I was actually initially diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and in 1975 they figured out I had something called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, which falls under the umbrella of the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I grew up largely at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, and because I was constantly falling and the doctors were worried I'd hurt myself, they put me in a wheelchair at the age of 8, where I stayed for 4 years. And something in me said, well, if I sit in this chair, won't my muscles dystrophy faster? So I started doing my own research and eventually got myself up on crutches, which took another 10, 12 years. So after about 20 years of retraining the body and a lot of pain and a lot of injury, I was able to walk half decently. In the 70s, though, when all this was going on, the idea of self-management really didn't exist, or not that I knew that it did. And I was just fortunate to be a very stubborn and precocious kid who was willing to deal with the pain in order, I had this goal in mind. However, I was also lucky to have very supportive parents, although they were very scared for me because the doctors were, of course, worried that I was going to hurt myself and permanently damage my body. I was supposed to be permanently in a wheelchair by the age of 22. I'm now 47. So I actually became a really good self-advocate and self-manager. And this is something I did on my own. I would have loved to have a program like the Toolbox back in the 70s. I know I would have benefited, not just from the practical information, which, and a lot of this information is just common sense information. And a doctor or a nurse or a physiotherapist could give the same information, but if they had the time, of course, to do so. But the other thing I found with the Toolbox is it brings together people with different diseases and conditions, as Deborah mentioned. And so you begin to feel you're not so alone. You're not in your own little pocket, your own little disease, but people actually are going through similar things, even if they have a totally different disease or condition from you. That they have to deal with the isolation, they have to deal with the pain sometimes, they have to deal with having difficulty communicating to their family and friends what's going on with them, especially if their situation is largely invisible. And they often face similar obstacles. So I was lucky in 2007 when Deborah brought the program to Quebec, and it was being simultaneously piloted in Toronto and Halifax. It's a Stanford University program. I got a call from Deborah, who didn't know who I was. I believe I was referred by the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I had never taught before in my life. I was very shy, and something made me say yes. And I've been with the program ever since. Became a master trainer, so I'm training trainers. What I have found, and Deborah has mentioned this, but the beauty of this program is the fact that it's peer-driven. It is taught in pairs, so all the teachers also have chronic conditions, chronic disease, chronic pain. And they are generally good self-managers, so they're very good at showing what's possible. However, what's most important is they can understand the emotions that people deal with. So the frustration, the anger, the depression, the anxiety, the feelings of loneliness and isolation. And you can be lonely and isolated even if you're surrounded by family and friends when you're dealing with a chronic disease. The fear of the future, and also the resentment that you can feel when others just don't understand. So, just to mention, some of the teachers we have are healthcare professionals as well. They are good teachers, but what makes them good teachers is they're dealing with their disease and not their credentials specifically. 1 minute. Okay, got it. So, just to give you an example of what I have seen over the years, is that people will often come in the first week, they'll be full of fear, they'll be angry, they'll be depressed. Sometimes they'll even feel victimized and that life has dealt them a raw hand. And at the end of the 6 weeks, for the majority of them, they feel they've gained some control, they feel empowered, they've taken responsibility for certain parts of their life where they realize, yes, actually, I can deal with this. They've accepted that others around them just might not understand, and that's okay. And there's some that even have come to the point where they're laughing and they're sharing with others in the group, and they really feel like they can move ahead with their condition. And when I run into people, sometimes even years later, it's like different people altogether. It's amazing. They're happier, they're more empowered, they often have a fuller life than someone who's not dealing with a chronic disease because they've made certain things priority, they've chosen to do things that make them feel good, and some of them have become excellent toolbox teachers. So just to say, this program, it's 2014 now, I've been doing it since 2007. I take time out of my day job to do this. I'm a translator as well as a yoga teacher. And for me, it's been so valuable to be able to see people blossom through 6 weeks and then to be able to work with some of them later on as teachers as well. So thank you very much.
Donc, en fait, moi, je voulais vous présenter le dernier panéliste. Rapidement, là, parce qu'on n'a pas beaucoup de temps, mais pas trop rapide pour les traducteurs. Je voulais juste préciser la mission de notre organisation qui est d'améliorer les services, de financer la recherche. Et depuis plusieurs années, on tente de créer un peu un réseau, si on veut, de gens atteints de maladies auto-immunes pour faire des conférences comme celle-ci, avoir des groupes de soutien, pouvoir réseauter. Et depuis un peu ce petit réseau-là, M. Jean Gendron, qui est ici, a toujours été avec nous lors de ces rencontres-là et est toujours bien disponible pour faire différents témoignages. Donc, je vous le présente rapidement. Il va vous parler un peu il va faire son témoignage. Donc, M. Gendron est atteint d'une polymyosite depuis environ 7 ans, qui est une forme de maladie auto-immune. Il vient nous faire un témoignage de son vécu avant et après la maladie. Alors, notez que M. Gendron travaillait dans le milieu du spectacle.
Bonjour. Donc, comme on disait, M. Jean Gendron, je viens faire un témoignage avant et après de ma maladie. J'ai 58 ans. Je suis né le 2 novembre 1956, donc c'est un scorpion. Je suis magicien et hypnotiseur depuis plus de 35 ans de métier dans des cabarets, des campings, de toutes sortes de situations aussi. Donc, l'aventure. Et je travaillais sous le nom de Janino. Pourquoi que mon nom de scène était Janino? Parce que dans le temps, j'étais inspiré par des magiciens en 78 qui avaient des noms qui commençaient par O, ou qui finissaient par O, puis qui finissaient par I, comme Slidini, Odini, ou Stefano, Ivano. Et j'ai été inspiré à prendre mon nom qui fait Jean Nino, en quelque sorte. Pour moi, c'était un simple travail. C'était pas un simple travail, autrement dit. C'était, et c'est toujours, une grande passion. Différemment d'un travail, quelqu'un qui va faire de la menuiserie, tout ça, malgré ça peut être une passion, mais différent d'un travail, on peut des fois laisser un travail avec moins de peine que c'est une passion, parce qu'une passion, ça fait partie de notre sang, ça fait partie de notre intérieur, et c'est que on ne peut pas mettre une passion de côté. En travail, on peut peut-être arriver à mettre de côté, mais pas une passion. Donc, c'était une passion. Et dans cette passion du spectacle, moi, je viens chercher la chaleur humaine, l'affection, l'attention et les autres sentiments que des fois on n'a pas, que le monde, le public nous donne dans la communication d'une performance. C'est un besoin. Donc, on ne peut pas se passer de ça. Et c'est comme manger, c'est comme boire. C'est essentiel. Et c'est ma drogue en quelque sorte. On peut le dire. Je vais essayer de tourner ma page. C'est ça. Donc, face à la maladie évolutive, vient des deuils. Comme on ne peut pas éviter, on ne peut pas éviter les deuils, le premier deuil le plus important, c'était de ne plus faire de sang. quand je tombais, j'avais des difficultés à me mouvoir sur scène. Et mon ego se sent touché parce que j'ai un très grand amour de la scène et je suis obligé de me raisonner et d'accepter les faits. C'est rendu dangereux pour moi et pour les autres de continuer à faire de la scène. En 2012, j'ai donc lâché la scène et avec beaucoup de nostalgie et de souffrance morale. Il y a un autre deuil, comme ne plus pouvoir conduire ma voiture. Pour certaines personnes, le deuil de conduire une voiture est une grande difficulté parce que c'est une passion pour les autres. Mais pour moi, conduire une voiture, c'était un moyen de transport pour me rendre à faire mes spectacles et tout ça. Et Dieu que je fais plus de spectacles, ben j'ai dit, on a d'autres moyens de transport, transport adopté, et ainsi de suite. Il y a eu d'autres deuils. La perte de mon autonomie physique, qui fait en sorte que j'ai dû accepter l'aide des personnes et aussi à les faire entrer dans mon intimité. En quelque sorte, ça semble facile, mais c'est bien d'être évident parce que, comme tout le monde, j'ai une certaine pudeur. Ce n'était pas un deuil facile car je tenais beaucoup à mon intimité et à ma vie privée. Un autre deuil, c'est de ne plus pouvoir jouer de la guitare. En effet, cela m'a pris de nombreuses années à apprendre à jouer les accords, à savoir comment placer mes doigts et mes mains. C'est un peu comme si la maladie était une force qui m'enlève mes talents un par un. Oh, putain, facile de tourner là. Ça m'aurait pris comme un micro ou quelque chose. Cela me force à me questionner. Et c'est que la maladie veut me faire comprendre quelque chose, que la maladie veut me faire comprendre quelque chose. Et c'est un peu comme si la maladie me forçait à me diriger vers une autre voie. Un peu comme une nouvelle mission que je dois accomplir dans ma vie. Afin de me faire réfléchir à une nouvelle évolution. Certaines personnes, dans le même état que moi, se sont peut-être déjà questionnées, elles aussi, sur ce sujet. Un autre deuil, c'est celui du piano. J'arrive quand même à en jouer un peu. Je peux faire des accords, mais je ne peux pas en jouer comme avant. Donc, malgré les symptômes apportés à ma maladie, on peut se débrouiller avec les moyens du bord. Par exemple, je continue à faire du piano, de la peinture, du dessin, mais en adoptant ma façon de faire, afin de pouvoir continuer ces passe-temps. Donc, j'ai réussi à contourner les difficultés motrices pour continuer à m'épanouir au travers de ces divers passe-temps. En effet, je pense que l'être humain est sur Terre pour se réaliser. Un autre deuil, c'est celui des voyages. Avant, je pouvais voyager facilement, tout en faisant des voyages pas trop dispendieux. Non, mon métier me permettait de voyager. Maintenant, c'est très compliqué d'organiser un voyage et ce serait aussi très cher, car c'est toute une organisation. On va Dans une maladie évolutive, on doit faire tout le temps les deux. En effet, il y a des ajustements, des adaptations continuelles à faire tout le temps, car la maladie évolutive apporte toujours du changement. Avec le temps, contrairement à quelqu'un qui aurait une maladie stable, la maladie évolutive ne permet pas d'être stable dans son mode de vie. Une autre chose apportée par la maladie, c'est qu'on peut décerner les vrais amis solides de ceux qui sont moins capables de dealer avec une maladie. Ceux qui sont moins capables ont eux aussi des problèmes de santé, ou bien ils trouvent ça très dur au niveau moral. Ceux qui restent, ce sont avec qui on a des liens de longue date, depuis de nombreuses années. Ils sont autant attachés à moi que moi je suis attaché à eux. Notre lien affectif est très fort. Cela me prouve que le plus grand pouvoir, c'est l'amour. Il n'y a pas plus grand pouvoir que l'amour. C'est plus fort que la maladie. Vu que c'est une deuxième vie, car c'est vraiment une deuxième vie, cela fait des changements côté amitié et des personnes nouvelles que je fréquente maintenant. Il y a des vieilles connaissances que je ne vois malheureusement plus. Dans la vie, il y a des anges. Ça, c'est vrai. Je vous explique. Pour moi, un ami solide, c'est un ange qui veille sur moi, me protège durant mon chemin de vie pour plusieurs années. Il voit, il est toujours là pour moi. Selon l'évolution de mon chemin de vie respective, il peut arriver qu'un ange prenne un chemin différent. Il peut même arriver qu'il décède. Mais il y a une force spirituelle qui fait qu'en sorte que cet ange sera remplacé par un autre ange sur mon parcours de vie. Moi, ma façon de voir et de ressentir les choses, j'ai eu la chance d'avoir 5 anges sur mon parcours de vie. À part la maladie, on s'en ok, je l'utilise. J'ai chargé non à mon chose. Attendez. C'est la dernière. Oui, c'est la dernière. Ah. Oui, c'est ça. À part la maladie, il y a évidemment d'autres épreuves qui peuvent survenir dans la vie de tout le monde. Ça fait partie de la vie. Et ça vient se rajouter à la maladie. On peut penser à la première peine d'amour, qui est une épreuve. Tout le monde a vécu une peine d'amour, que nous avons tous vécu. Certaines épreuves sont là pour nous apprendre quelque chose, mais d'autres épreuves ne nous apportent rien de positif. À un moment donné, j'ai passé au feu. Et j'ai tout perdu. Je me disais, il ne peut pas m'arriver pire. Impossible. À un autre moment donné, je me suis fait voler dans mon appartement. Je me disais encore une fois, il ne peut pas m'arriver pire. Ensuite, une des plus grandes épreuves de ma vie était que ma mère est décédée à mes côtés dans un accident de voiture. Vous comprenez maintenant pourquoi faire le deuil de conduire une voiture n'a pas été une difficulté pour moi. Les voitures sont pour moi trop associées au décès très douloureux de ma mère. Donc, la vie, ce qui nous arrive, nous emmène dans l'incompréhension totale. On se sent perdu. On se sent au fond du baril. Par contre, on prend un recul. Les 5 choses de la vie qu'on trouvait banales deviennent toutes importantes et on épuise les ressources pour s'en faire les outils nécessaires pour un nouveau départ. On apprécie l'environnement, les fleurs, la beauté, les libellules, le vent dans les arbres, la nature. On épuise nos forces pour surmonter les épreuves et pour nous rendre courageux. On apprécie ce qu'on a, comme pouvoir parler, pouvoir écouter. Et la vie, c'est beau, la vie. Oh.